Welcome to episode 14 of The Aspiring STEM Geek. In this episode, I talked to Brittney Huber and Bradley Knutson. Brittney and Bradley work in the tech field. Brittney is a support engineer and Bradley is a full stack developer. In the episode, we talk about how the two attended a coding bootcamp, how they broke into the tech field, debugging complex issues in the tech stack, full stack development, how AI might affect the job market, nerd pop culture, and at the end of the episode, Bradley taste tests a ghost pepper. I hope you enjoy. Bradley Knutson and Brittney Huber, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and have the table for you, Brittney, and as a consolation prize, Bradley, I have hot sauce, which you may or may not try during the podcast. I don't know if I recommend it. It's got ghost pepper.
Ghost pepper ain't no big deal. I'd be more than willing to try this on the podcast just to see what happens. I might die, but that would make for some good content.
No, please don't die.
I'll try not to.
Yeah, I don't know if you dying will make the podcast. That might get edited out.
Wow, I die and it's not even a big deal. That's just like something you skip over.
Yeah, what's the I will remember you. Died in a high school crash and you get that at the prom or wherever they play it.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah. So let's get started. Both of you so you're a support engineer, Brittney, and you're a full stack developer.
Yep.
Let's start, as always, at the beginning. How did both of you get into technology during your childhood, or if at all?
Do you want to go first, Brittney?
Sure. So I was not into technology at all as a child, actually. So I kind of, followed Bradley's lead and let him play all the video games. I liked watching him do it before I would try it myself. So I was a little bit late to the game by the time I got into the industry, but eventually landed in some roles where I, involved a little bit more technical troubleshooting, and I found I had the aptitude for that. And so it kind of just expanded from there when I realized this might be something that I could make a career out of.
That's very true. And a little bit of context that I don't think was said before. We are siblings.
Oh, yes.
So we didn't know each other when we were small. So I got into technology when I was really little. Our father was in tech, and he would do things like he would bring home printers from his work and just let me take them apart and put them back together. He would bring me into his, office and pay me, $10 to do some menial task for him. And he started getting me some books on coding when I was small.
Books on coding. What's small?
5, 6.
That's very small.
Yeah. Well, nowadays there are a ton of books and tools and stuff for kids to learn. At that time,
90s, 2000s. That's pretty unheard of.
I got a book on Visual Basic. It was wild.
The worst Christmas ever.
Yeah. And so I did a little bit of that. And then from then on, because I also enjoyed video games, I wanted to be a video game developer. Pretty classic way of people, getting into it. Never chased that dream, really, but I always wanted to be a dev.
Yeah.
So it just kind of progressed from there, really.
Well, to be fair, you might have avoided a bullet. You always hear the horror stories. I think Blizzard's the one everybody knows about, the 60, 70, 80 hours just sitting, coding, maybe even more than that. It's wild. And they have a lot of former employees that talk about it online.
Oh, yeah. It's basically you have to live there. It's very, very time consuming. And you have to, there's laundry, places on campus, and you can get food and drinks. And, you basically live there for the, entire time period. And you don't get paid as much as just, building a SaaS app, because it's a passion job. So the people really want to be there, so they pay them or can pay them less. So I might have dodged a bullet, but it still would have been cool.
Have you ever seen, so you played Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you seen somebody hacked their source code and then posted it online, And then all the wild comments that are throughout the code, like who put this in here? And like a bunch of expletives everywhere.
Yes, I love those. I just love seeing people rage at their own code as they're writing it, or especially like warnings where it's like, don't touch this. We've tried for the last 10 years. We don't know how it works. We don't know why it works. Just don't remove it.
Yeah, man, it has to be especially stuff like Grand Theft Auto 4, Red Dead Redemption 2. How many millions of lines of code are in that?
Oh yeah, and like many years of legacy things in the engine and stuff too. Yeah. So yeah, goes wild.
Yeah, have you played Cyberpunk 2070?
I have played Cyberpunk.
So that's a good turnaround story. I bought it when it first came out. It was one of the few games that I've paid full price for, and there were some bug issues. I play on PC. I think I had a 1080 Ti GPU, so not the most high-end thing, but it worked. And I recall maybe one or two bugs, but nothing where it just ruined the experience. And I recently replayed Cyberpunk, and it's like, this is pretty decent. They've really done a great job in taking all that code and refactoring it and making it better.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a larger topic on it, specifically video games and stuff with being released too early, I would, argue. But yeah, Cyberpunk is a great game, and particularly now that they have gone through and resolved a lot of issues with it and some of the DLCs and, whatnot. Yeah, definitely a good turnaround story for it being everyone talking about how it was the worst thing ever when it first came out because of how many bugs there were. And now it's pretty beloved.
Yeah. All right. I'm definitely going to bring video games later down the line and bring up Super Mario because there's a wild amount of Toad here, and we'll get into that later. Both of you decided to attend a coding boot camp together. So to briefly explain coding boot camps, they are programming courses that you take and can be as short as a single month or can be as long as 2 years from what I've seen online. When I was planning on leaving finance, I thought about going the coding boot camp route. I ended up going for my master's degree. But why did you two decide to do the boot camp? I don't know. Brittany, you want to start first?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I was in a role where I was already somewhat technically experienced, but I wanted to learn more. I wanted to, have some experience that would, further my career and really get me into something a little bit more stable with a better living wage, to be quite honest. And so it kind of made sense, especially because Bradley had also been interested. Had he not, I don't know that I would have had the confidence to go it alone. So the timing just kind of worked out that it was something that both him and I wanted to do together. And yeah.
I'm going to give the entire credit to her.
Okay.
Because I was in a time where I was trapped in what I call tutorial hell, where I was continually trying to learn solo. I never went to university. And even, from when I was a kid, I would go through a tutorial, not really get to the point where I could feel super confident or start building real projects. And then I'd give up. And then several months later, I'd come back to it. And then I'd just start a brand new tutorial thinking maybe I just need to master the basics more or whatever it, happened to be. And I would just start over and over and over again. Different programming languages. I would Google like what to learn and be like, oh, Python is the cool thing right now. You should learn Python the hard way. No, now everyone's into JavaScript. Now everyone's into, and it was really the turning point when I was still doing a little bit of that when Brittany said that she wanted to do a coding boot camp. And I was like, I will do it with you because one of my biggest issues is commitment, I guess, and just having someone doing it at the same time meant that I wasn't going to just slack and then give up and stop.
Helped us both stay motivated, exactly. I think.
It was really good for us both to be there. And so as soon as she said she wanted to do it, I was really pushing for her to do it so that I would do it as well. And then we were able to push each other through the camp itself. So
yeah. This ended up being right before 2022, so it ended up falling at a decent time.
Yeah, yes, it did.
It's higher. There was a huge hiring spree. Now there's a unhiring spree right now.
Yes, there is.
So let's hope for the sake of all our jobs because we're all in tech. But yeah, I definitely understand the tutorial hell. I've been there I still go through it as well, where it's I think a bit easier nowadays, especially now that I know tech. We talked about containers before. Spinning up containers, trying programs is a lot easier for me now that I'm more technically capable, or even virtual machines. But I think there was a lot of issues with textbooks, and there still are. I'm looking into taking a cybersecurity exam, and I can't stand it, and I need to do it because not part of the job requirement, but on what I work on, it's looked upon very well, and it's just multiple choice and reading through text, whereas doing it is a lot easier, which is why I love Python. I could get into coding very quickly, and they're very low barriers to entry, and you can actually build something that it works and you can play around with.
Yeah, and that's kind of a very good point, because one of the big issues with tutorials, in a lot of cases, think Codecademy type things, which are all great, but it's very easy to get to the beginner stage where you just know something, right? You learn what a variable is, you learn, and this is specifically programming, but for other things, you can get to that beginner stage where you just know a little bit. Going from intermediate to advanced is pretty easy because it's just an overtime thing. As you do other things, you're learning little bits at a time, and it's all building on a solid foundation. But going from beginner to intermediate is a pretty big leap. And so that's one of the issues with, the tutorial help. People always kind of stick around in that beginner zone, not knowing how to progress into building something more. So I do agree. Python is a great way to go about that because you can use smaller amount, of code to do something. You do have to still have a project or an idea in mind, and it can be any project. A lot of people get hung up on, I have to build this to do this, and it's just build something.
Yep. That's my advice to people that want to get into coding. Just there's very little friction. It's easy to kind of set up. I was thinking when we were talking about when you first had tutorial hell is I started so many tutorials. I think Udemy was books. They had cheap ones initially, and I bought a bunch of things and maybe it wasn't even Udemy. It was just looking at YouTube, but I downloaded Python like 3 or 4 different times without realizing it. And I didn't understand the difference between a language and an IDE. So I remember I first downloaded Visual Studio Code 7-8 years ago. And I was like, okay, so this has C++ and Python and everything else. And even just getting it on computer sometimes can be such a headache, and it's just bloatware where, like I have 4 IDEs and I don't even quite understand how these things work and why isn't C++ working and it's not compiling anything. So it can be very daunting if you're not going, if it is 100% solo.
Yeah. And when I was going through it, even with Python, I think I did start with Learn Python the hard way. And that one is very much you get Notepad++, and then you get Python. You can't even have colors, just write it and then see if it works,
Well, that's the point of Notepad++ versus Notepad.
But it's very much like, if you learn the hard way, then you'll understand all the things, even if it doesn't really give you much of a benefit.
Yeah.
There's many things to be said about that. I think it went a little too, hard. But basically, as little help as possible.
Yeah.
But then, I eventually was doing Udacity. I don't even know if Udacity is around anymore. But that was also for Python, and I think one of the first projects was building a web crawler, which I eventually did, but I didn't know, or I didn't, internalize enough of it to, again, be able to reutilize it. And then, after that, I'm like, all right, I'll just learn JavaScript, because I could never go to the next step. But Udemy is also a good thing. I will call out Udemy. It's still pretty good.
Yeah. I'm using it just because I have access through my work, and I have to take this cybersecurity cert that I'm not too excited about, but it's less about learning it because I read the textbook, and it's more about I just need to go through as many questions as possible, and Udemy has a lot of material on there.
Yeah, tons of videos.
All right. So in the coding camp, let's talk about some of the stuff that you did. What was the focus? Was it front-end development, back-end, full stack? anything like that you in particular focused on, or did they just kind of go through everything like a software engineering course?
It was a full stack coding boot camp. I think Bradley and I both kind of focused on different things within it just on our own. So like in like group projects that we would work on, I tended to have more of an affinity for the front end development, whereas Bradley was definitely more focused on the back end work. It was just something that I guess made sense with me more or clicked with me more. I liked the design aspect and like the front end part of that. So I definitely geared a little bit towards that myself.
Yeah, the bootcamp itself does layer things on top, right? So you learn basic HTML, basic CSS, basic JavaScript. Then you progress into using a package, from JavaScript. Then you get into Node and little bits and pieces. I would argue that the majority of the bootcamp itself does focus on backend until you get into React. Nowadays, at least with the bootcamp that we went to, they did change things around so you learn React much sooner. But during the time, it was a lot of backend. But yeah, the individual focus was I was definitely more akin to backend and APIs. And I can't make things look pretty, as you can probably tell from me.
I disagree. Well, you just tangent. You came back from a Renaissance fair. It would have been cool to see the full gear in it. Did you? I'm sorry to interrupt while you're explaining what you did. But did you have a sword or anything like that? I'm just curious.
No, I really was tempted, but I kind of had this kind of peasant look but with the cloak, and okay. I just didn't think a sword would fit into the look.
Just so. NPC.
Yeah.
Low key NPC. I like it. Okay, so I'm sorry. You were back end was your thing. APIs.
Yep. So, yeah, definitely my area of focus. I much preferred the logic side. Nowadays, there is much more logic in the front end, but it's not really inherently its point. And so I liked doing the back end work a lot more, so I focused on it a lot more.
Yeah, I will say, as somebody that does more data science, always tell everybody I'm not a software engineer. I'm a data scientist. I've known plenty of both to know the difference, but I'm working on a project that's full stack, front end, back end. There's just so much to manage. So it's really good that you got to learn all of that, where you can develop things, because I'm sure you did something like Nginx and things like that. And like you were saying, React, as well as, I don't know what you did for the back end, but I'm using Go for mine. And maybe you even got into databases. That's super valuable too.
Yeah, we covered two different databases. I mean, the two most common ones, SQL, specifically MySQL, and MongoDB, the NoSQL database. So we did do that. And then our backend, like the full stack course, was all JavaScript. So it was with Node and Express. And so we didn't have to configure Nginx, manually or anything like that. But that's something I've done separately.
Yeah. All right. So Brittany, front end, Bradley, back end. Was there a course or a concept that either of you enjoyed the most during the course?
That's a good question. I think so for me, all of it was brand new. So like I had no foundation really going into it. So even just learning like basic HTML and CSS was pretty like fascinating for me. Like all that old MySpace code finally made sense when I used to make that old website. So I did like just learning like the CSS properties, because again, I liked the stylistic side of it and the UX UI stuff. But then I think I would say I also really enjoyed learning React, and I liked learning about the databases. So like MySQL and MongoDB were also really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. You were very good at all of those. I think the most fun I had was when we finally got into Express. So that is like when you actually have a server and are building routes to build a backend API.
So you're into the networking part of it.
Yeah, well, it's also more that now there was a way for, a front end to communicate with the back end, have it return data. It's like when all of the pieces came together for a site, right? Like everything else, like you could still have just plain old HTML, plain old, CSS, and plain old JavaScript with Node, with Express, and have a fully functioning site. And that was just so much power. And there was a lot more creativity that can come from it. And the difference is, like, you can make the routes whatever you want and have it do different things. Like, every dev will do something slightly different to fill the same acceptance criteria. And that was really interesting to me. And I started doing a bunch of wacky things with with the routes. So
yeah, it's interesting to try to figure out how to optimize it. And I'm working in Go. I'm using Flutter for the front end and Postgres for my database, but there's so much. And then I'm just using, this is all on a small cloud instance. And man, it's just such a lot of troubleshooting. How many times I have to, okay, let me check the front end log. Let me check the back end log. What's going on? It gets so complex really quickly. Like, I probably have 30 plus scripts right now for the project. It adds up.
It definitely adds up. You know, it can go from, like, 30 files to 10,000 real fast, because everything is, incremental at that point, because you have something functioning and you can just keep adding to it.
Yeah, there's just, there's ways to kind of, even how you structure the directories and everything, that's something that's relatively new to me. That's not a software engineer. Like, how do I label this in front end? How do I store all my assets and everything like that? Because I want to make sure I'm doing it to the industry standards, but it gets really granular really quickly.
There is an XKCD in regards to that, a comic that, a bunch of people are standing in a room and was like, oh, there's, all these different standards. We need to make a standard that takes all the best things of all of these ones. And then the next scene is, there are now the same number, but plus one. There are so many standards that there are no standards. And then you take into account that a lot of companies don't do it the standard way anyway. People or companies still don't do REST calls. Like, there can be a GET request that does some random stuff, or a POST request that gets information. There's so many things that, at that point, doing it the right way is not what I would generally recommend. Just making it work is the first step. Optimization and all the other stuff can come later.
Yeah. It's we'll see what happens. I'll let you know how many different file names I have for directory names that I have at the end of this. So you both mentioned group project. I think in terms of learning, that's probably the most valuable thing. It's great with programming that you can jump in and do it yourself, but to better emulate the real world, you're working with groups of people, and man, that is so tough to like. Even you mentioned GitHub, working on the same project within GitHub, making requests and making changes to it and going back and forth on it. Can you both talk about that and how they went through that with the coding bootcamp?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the more challenging parts for me, especially with learning how to deal with merge conflicts, which I still struggle with. It's
not
thing.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that was definitely interesting. It was kind of hit or miss depending on the group you got sometimes. And so that was one of the bigger challenges to go over. But overall, though, like, those projects, because we would have to come up with our own project idea fully, and then also, execute that. And so those ones were the ones where we really got to learn a little bit more, where we were working more independently while also working as part of a group. And so it gave us a much better experience getting an idea of what that would be like in the real world, or if you were doing that as part of a job.
Yeah, and I would completely agree. And it was definitely a mixed bag depending on who you're with, as with any project anywhere for anything. Specifically with Git. So I had a little bit of practice with Git ahead of time. So I already knew the basic principles and how to use it. So it tended to mean that I was the one who was managing the repository. And I would, and I would just lock it down, force PRs so that no one was pushing to, main or master, whatever.
Pull requests.
Yeah, pull requests. And that made things simpler, but trying to convince people that less is more was really hard. And sometimes it still is. I mean, and I struggle with it sometimes too, where, you know, a bunch of smaller commits and then a, you know, relatively small PR for a feature is much better than I built a whole project and let me just, you know, push it all at once. And I think that's
hard for me.
Yeah, it's still something that a lot of people, you know, struggle with when actually going into the difference between a bootcamp style where you're just trying to get things as fast as possible and you don't necessarily know the best way of doing things, and then going into a job where things are much more focused, or at least should be much more focused.
Yeah. For people that haven't used GitHub or GitHub or Git, because Git is used for version control, incremental changes are usually pushed and saved on GitHub. And the main reason for that is small change, especially for something super complex, can break something that you didn't even think would break it. And reverting it back to its previous stage is ideal but if you have huge changes and like, oh man, we did all this and everything works perfectly besides this small thing that broke, and now we have to roll all that back, is why a lot of people prefer to do incremental changes in software development.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good thing to call out. And just for anyone who might not know Git in general, it is a version control system. So every time you have a commit, it is basically recording that piece of history. And so it just layers on top of everything else that has ever happened to that. Think of it like a folder, right? It's just a folder with a bunch of other folders and files, and, you know, it can go really deep. And so every single change is managed on top of another thing. It becomes a whole tree. So yeah, the incremental changes makes it so that if you push something and it turns out that everything is broken because of it, you can just, you know, undo to that point in time, and everything starts working again.
Yeah, it's such a great technology by the great Linus Torvalds.
Yes, the great Linus. And it's so much better than having to push a file over, you know, SFTP to a server and then just seeing what happens.
Yeah. It's amazing. So is Linux.
Agreed.
Linus, please come on the podcast. Okay. So now we're going to get to the AI. One of the AI questions, because nowadays everything is AI and they're the overlords, apparently.
I'm an AI. You just don't know.
Yeah, we're all AIs. They were just talking to each other. Don't demonetize this, YouTube. But artificial intelligence, specifically large language models, are a frequent topic. There was a report that came out on January 2025, which I linked in the description. It polled employers. It said that 40% of those employers are planning to reduce their staff as their skills are becoming less relevant. I have said AI won't replace most people anytime soon. Maybe there's some jobs that will be lost to efficiency. I'm just skeptical about a huge change anytime soon. But what are both of your thoughts on the value of attending a bootcamp or even university given the future state of AI?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Like, I feel like it'll probably be less and less of a viable option. Like, the market is, I feel like, already so saturated, and that has been such a trend lately that I don't know if the boot camps are still going to be able to set themselves apart from like what you can learn through AI. That said, I think there is still like value to them from what you can learn through them compared to like learning through AI, like being able to do the group work and things like that. But I think it will be more and more difficult to find success with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I would almost argue that it's actually more imperative to have things like university. Coding boot camps are a little bit kind of on the fringe of it. But specifically with university, one of the big things with AI is that it won't, of course, replace a senior engineer anytime soon. Juniors, it won't really replace, but it is something that a junior can use to be much more productive, but it makes it much harder to make the jump from junior to senior or, you know, something akin to that. Having a much better base knowledge of how it works or of how coding works or even of how AI works gives you a lot more power to make it over that jump. Because as we're seeing right now in a lot of markets is that seniors are still being hired. That is something that is still very much in demand. And there's someone who can even use AI to be even more productive. Juniors are not being hired as much because smaller number of juniors with AI can be much more productive comparatively. So I think schooling is still going to be very imperative for that. It's still going to be worth it. It is a hard thing because while it might not replace wholesale an engineer, just like with, a lot of these art things, it might not replace, wholesale an art team, right? If there is a 20% increase in productivity with the use of AI, like I do use AI when coding, I have it write a lot of specs for me, tests for the code. If that, saves me 20% of my time, that's, but everyone is doing that. That's 20% less developers needed to have the same velocity. So there are still jobs being lost because of it. Now, this is the same thing that's happened to, all throughout history with all of technology. Though, computers themselves used to be a bunch of individual people writing, calculations down. It was historically a job held by women. And then we have actual computers that now you have Excel that would have a whole room full of people doing the job before. Once you have the printing press, you have a whole bunch of people out of jobs. It's what technology does. Schooling is, and in general, just that sort of experience is a way to gain that inherent knowledge to do the job and also utilize some AI and have somewhat of a leg up compared to people who might not. It's still going to be a deciding factor. I think both of us did get lucky that neither of us were, have graduated from a university. I never went to university at all, but it's going to be still very necessary.
Yeah, it's AI. My thoughts change on it a lot, but I agree. I agree with both of you, but I agree with you, Brittany. I don't know what's going to happen, but by nature, I'm skeptical. So that it will replace a lot of people, but we will see. Bradley, I did not know that you worked as a TA at different universities.
I did.
So can you talk about that? What universities were those and what did you assist in teaching?
Yeah, so that was actually part of the Bootcamp.
Okay.
So the Bootcamp that we went to is one that partners with universities. Technically speaking, we had signed up for a Bootcamp through the University of Denver. But University of Denver uses other company to actually do the boot camp, and they do it for a bunch of universities, or did. They are actually getting rid of their boot camps. I'm hoping that's public. Anyway.
You didn't say any names.
No. And so after the boot camp, the instructor was like, you would be really great at doing this, and because
he was already acting as the TA in our boot camp, for the record, like he by far was he had the experience of a TA already.
I was performing the role of a TA for our own during that time, so I figured get paid for it, have it on my resume as an actual engineering job. So I basically was a TA to teach the coding boot camp. And I was, sub instructor as well at various points. So I did it for University of Denver and University of Arizona. Did I do it for Denver? University of Arizona for sure. A university in Texas that I can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, but it was all for the same boot camp that Brittany and I had gone to.
Okay, interesting. Was there a concept that you found that the students that you were helping struggled with the most?
Yeah, well,
everything.
Everything. So I would argue the primary pain points were the start of JavaScript, because most people can see HTML and go, okay, I just do it exactly like this, and then see it immediately. And CSS is, again, turn it blue, awesome. Even though advanced CSS is still wild. When you get into learning JavaScript, it is a whole paradigm shift for a way, for how people think, because you then have to translate your own thoughts into steps that computers can understand. So that was always a pain point. And if people were not really proficient at, at trying to make that leap, it did become much harder as things progress, because that was the basis for everything else. The other one is with APIs and routes, because again, that's kind of a paradigm shift in how things work. You have to make these calls from the front end, the back end then responds with data rather than just trying to do it all in the front end, even though the front end doesn't have access to the database, or trying to do it all in the back end when you can't, anyway. So those were the two big pain points.
Yeah, that makes sense. It goes back to me having to troubleshoot API call issues as front end, back. Usually you could figure out pretty quickly which one it is, but it's still there's a lot to go through, and it's very complicated to troubleshoot.
It is. It's hard to troubleshoot, especially when, as you mentioned, you don't necessarily know upfront without some experience where the issue is happening. You kind of have to get a feel for your own code and what you're trying to do and try and separate them out as much as possible for that. Because some people will start trying to put some logic in the front end and then, completely ignore the back end when really most of the logic should be done in the back end, and a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah. We are going to take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back, and we have your full Renaissance Fair get up now.
Yeah, there was just one piece missing. It was my my Ruana, so I'm wearing that now.
All right. Let's go into your current work. So both of you work at the same company. What's it like as siblings to work I know my brothers that wouldn't work. So I'm just curious how it's been for the both of you.
I mean, at least speaking for myself, I think it's been great. We did initially start on the exact same team. I worked for the company before Bradley. And yeah, he definitely was someone who helped me excel, and I hope that I sort of helped him at the same time, not necessarily with the same things, but I definitely learned a lot from working with him, and I still do. And so, especially as I try to work to gain more technical and programming experience specifically, it's kind of nice that I have my brother who's always a mentor to me and can help give me advice and bounce ideas off each other. So yeah, I like it.
I definitely enjoy it too. I also just have to say, the person who got me the job at that company saying, I don't know if I helped him at all, I don't know, is weird to me. But yes, and even in general with some of the tech issues and learning, and stuff, it was incredibly helpful to have someone on the team who I knew was comfortable with to go to. And even nowadays, like, because I'm focused on different areas of the application, I still, go to her to talk through things a lot of the time. And also we can talk shit as much as we want. And
that is nice, because that is something I do with my siblings is talk shit. Yeah, that's a safe space there.
Yeah. So it's pretty great, and being able to have a lot of shared experiences when it comes to the company working together. It's been awesome. Yeah.
We've had the opportunity to go to like different, company retreats or trips together. So like both him and I got to go to New York for the first time together with our individual respective teams. We've gotten to go to Mexico together, travel outside the country for the first time. And so it's been nice having like someone to go through that and experience it with, and yeah, someone you can gripe with, then yeah.
Definitely agree.
That's awesome. So Brittany, you troubleshoot email delivery issues. So that, going for my cybersecurity certification, I have to read about these things. The sender policy framework, domain keys identified, mail, domain-based message authentication reporting, so SPF, DKIM, DMARC. These are used for identifying senders and authenticating emails. What is a common issue that you help troubleshoot?
I guess so. Email delivery, is one of the issues that I do troubleshoot. So I'd say with that specifically, one of the most common issues lately has been just investigating DMARC related failures specifically. Both Google and Yahoo changed some of their sending policies recently within, I think, the last year or so. Don't quote me on that because I don't remember. But so they've changed it to help reduce essentially unwanted mail and spam and things like that. And so it does change the way that, companies need to treat their email domains. And so big part of that, it has involved, certain emails just like not getting delivered, or not received by the recipient due to, whatever their DMARC policy is or their DMARC record. And so that has been a big part of the troubleshooting lately, has been investigating that specifically.
Okay. Bradley, have you helped her with any of this troubleshooting?
Somewhat. I do have a lot of experience when it comes to DMARC, DKIM, etc. As a side note, there's probably 3 people left in the universe who know what those stand for. But I also just have separate experience from a long history of working with DNS records and email delivery and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really do it much right now because it's not an area that I usually work on.
Yeah, so
not unless I'm asking him questions.
Also fair.
I mean, dealing with web stuff is I can't remember the AWS one to verify. It's a service that verifies your email, and troubleshooting that can be a headache between like configuring that between like the website on whatever platform you use for your web host, but then the actual code itself, then AWS. There's just so many services that you have to take care of. So I can empathize somewhat, even if that's not what I do full time.
Yes. And yeah, our customers, everyone has a different DNS provider. Obviously, there are some commonalities and similar ones, but yeah, we do have a specific verification process that everyone needs to go through with their individual domains. So having that knowledge across different DNS providers is definitely helpful to have.
Yeah. All right, Bradley, you're full stack developer, like we mentioned earlier. So what are some of the things that you've worked on, are working on, if you want to get into that?
Yeah, so I'm a full stack developer, but on my team, I am much more focused on backend and integrations. So essentially, I try to make our application work with other applications. And so it's a lot of APIs. It's a lot of logic in terms of, data and how 2 systems, what objects they might be able to provide versus what we provide, and to try to make them all connect in a certain way. And it's a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, that can't be easy. It's is there a language that you've been working with in particular for backend development?
Yeah, so our company primarily uses Ruby on Rails. We do have some services that use other language. We do have some Go and Kotlin and stuff, but they're mainly for microservices that one person built because they wanted to build it.
Yeah, no, it's have you worked back-end stuff? Because that's something I've been getting into more and more over the past year or two, is microservices, specifically containers. Do you help oversee any of the containers?
Not inherently. I do have to help in some aspects because my team owns a code base all on our own that has to be managed. We also do have we have a containerization. We do use Kubernetes and stuff, but then we also have another service on top of that, and then we in-house built another layer on top of that. So most of what we have to do is all automated to the nth degree, so we don't have to do much manual work with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Containers are really cool software, highly recommended for people looking to get into it. So what's a common issue that you've helped troubleshoot on the back end?
Well, troubleshoot or build,
whichever you think is more interesting.
That's a very fair point. I guess, building stuff is certainly more common. In general, I work primarily with HRIS, Human Resource Information System, so ADP, stuff like that. And, try to build a connector for our app where everything has to line up. And so it really takes a lot of digging into what APIs are available, what permissions are needed, how to provide the authorization from a customer. And a lot of that stuff is really where a lot of the time comes in, just trying to understand how to communicate with this dang thing that's been, that was built 100 years ago. So that's most of the day. When it comes to troubleshooting, it can literally be anything. It's, we have a whole escalation process. Brittany's team on the support engineer, they tend to have customers let them know, like, hey, something isn't working. They try and troubleshoot, can't figure it out. It comes to, the individual team that owns that part of it. When it comes to my team, it's different every single time. So I just recently found that we had an infinite loop somewhere in the code that we haven't found in a year. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Somebody just put a fork bomb in there. It's like, this will be fun. See, let's turn this into a CTF. See if we can find it.
Yes.
All right. So last thing on your current work. So Bradley, you mentioned that you're going to be working with some AI project. Do you want to go into that if you want to?
Yeah. So it's not necessarily set in stone, but we are trying to look for ways to utilize AI more. So one example is, especially when it comes to transformation of data or figuring out how to take something and make it work for many other systems, take addresses and phone numbers. So many different formats. There's not a standard for all of them. And it's very difficult to know even what an HRIS or any other type of system will want an address formatted as.
You can't just use regex.
You cannot. I've tried so hard. And especially when, we don't have in our app, we don't have a bunch of things broken out by line 1, line 2, line 3, all the infinite different ways. And so stuff like parsing of that data is one way that we could use specifically a large language model to be able to piece it out into a bunch of different things. There are APIs that supposedly do that. They just do not work very well because addresses and stuff like phone numbers are a huge pain in the ass. So, yeah.
Okay, that's fun. There's I think it should be able to handle it. I guess I'd be kind of curious. I assume that they just kind of want to use a wrapper around something like whatever ChatGPT's model, their API model is, or Google Gemini's wrapper is for that.
Essentially, yeah. We're going to be basically making API calls to one of them and then doing a lot of the stuff ourselves and seeing what we can get out of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some of the fun questions now. So, Bradley, you have a lot of random STEM knowledge, that little tidbits everywhere.
Somehow, yeah.
So, okay, I want to talk about one in particular, about Louis Slotin. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
And a critical accident that occurred in Los Alamos towards the end of Manhattan Project. So, for those of you that don't know, Manhattan Project was in the United States during World War II that helped develop nuclear weapons for the U.S. Tell me about Lou. What happened to the poor guy?
You got it. You keep going. This is great.
No. I just know that there was an accident, and I know from the Wikipedia page it didn't end well.
It did not end well. No. He was doing criticality experiments, and he was the nuclear cowboy. He liked to, play things dangerously. So he would run experiments on a core that trying to see how close he can get to criticality by holding it open with a screwdriver and slowly making it, because it was basically just a large ball. And at some point the screwdriver slipped. And as soon as the two halves touched, enough radiation was emitted to guarantee that everyone in that room was going to die. And an interesting thing is he had everyone stop where they were and mark down on the floor where they were when that happened. And then he could calculate how long everyone had to live.
That's depressing.
It is. Well, it happened very soon after one of his colleagues basically died in the exact same way. Not with the screwdriver and stuff. It was, different circumstances, but when doing criticality experiments.
Okay. Interesting. Can you give us one more STEM fact that's completely random just to put you on the spot?
Oh God, random facts. I mean,
Well, you were talking about, so you got to travel abroad. You had a fact about penguins, about freshwater, saltwater.
Oh, puffins.
Oh,
Puffins. I'm
no,
sorry.
the freshwater, saltwater was in regards to otters.
Oh, yes.
Oh, is it otters?
Otters.
I'm wrong.
Tells you how much how well I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
Hey, I was part of the conversation and I missed it too.
So it was in regards to otters, because even there are, sea otters, and they can be in salt water, but they cannot just be in salt water because the salt will essentially get stuck in their fur and stuff. They still have to go into fresh water to basically cleanse themselves of all the salt. So it might feel different now that it's not penguins, but
otters are, I assume, cute. I don't know.
you don't know what an otter looks like? No, wait, we have to talk about that. What do you mean assume cute?
Otters are very cute.
I'm trying to. I have penguins on the brain right now. So.
Are you picturing a black and white kind of creature right now, even if it's an otter?
Well, like kind of like I have a muskrat now in my brain, so it's this isn't helping. But yeah, I'm not known for my animal facts. Infamously, I thought a jackalope was real, so it's
okay.
Yeah. That tells you how well I know the animal kingdom.
Were you one of the people that would buy one of the jackalope skulls?
Now I want one.
Exactly.
I need to prove somebody wrong about jackalopes. But yeah,
I know a guy.
All right, that has jackalopes. Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So before we get into all the fun questions, I do have one last serious question to ask. So both of you mentioned, I know, Brittany, you attended university briefly for biology. If you could go back and study anything, because Bradley, I know you're into a variety of different STEM topics. And I know personally, I would go back and instead of, for my undergraduate finance econ, I would do electrical engineering instead. What would each of you choose to study, if anything? Or, I mean, if you're totally fine with the boot camp. But yeah, there's times I think like, oh yeah, I think electrical engineering, I don't know if I had the capacity to do it, but it's definitely something of interest that at this point in my life is more interesting to me than finance and economics.
Yeah, I can start off with this one. So if I were to go back, I would knowing what I do now, I would just go for computer science. And that's what I did initially want to go to university to. I just never had the opportunity for various reasons. But if it had to be something different, because that, just would tie in with what I'm doing now, really the difference was that I probably would have started my career a lot earlier. I would have gone for physics. Likely, because in regards to STEM, that is something that I was far more interested in, and still am. Not a whole lot, or not as many job prospects in that regard, but
it depends. You can dual major, but
you can, yeah. But that's definitely something that even now I would still even consider going back just to learn more about and get more of a deep-seated knowledge rather than some of my random, stuff from I read several physics books and stuff like that, which helps, but it's not quite the same level.
Yeah, there's a level of engagement that. So I did community college for 2 years. I didn't get the full 4-year university experience. I did COVID university for my graduate degree, so that was awful. So yeah, full price for college with the online quality. But the 2 years I was at the university, particularly with the professors, it was really engaging to talk to them, and you can have deep conversations with them. So that is something I appreciated and probably kept me in finance more than it should have. All right, Brittany, how about you? Back to biology, anything else you think you would have been interested in?
Yeah, so I definitely would have made many different choices educationally. I mean, looking back, it would have been great if I was a computer science major, and that's what would help me now. But if I had to just choose anything that I would have wanted to do, it would either be going to school to become an esthetician, or a makeup artist would be my ideal career. Or even going to culinary school would have been a better fit for me back then to specifically learn pastry. So very different than the tech industry, but I would have enjoyed it very much.
Okay. Yeah. I think if it were more trades for me, it probably would have been more woodworking. I could have built you a better table. If that were the case. I tried my best. I mean, I cleaned it up as much as I could, but I tried my best.
I'm pretty impressed by it. There's no way I could do anywhere near that good. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, last question. So, Bradley, you recently went to the UK, and then Brittany, you mentioned that both of you got to go together with your company to Mexico, and you've recently been traveling. Just both of you. What do you enjoy about traveling? And it's expensive to do, and I wasn't able to afford it for a long time. But as soon as you can, I highly encourage people to. But for each of you, what do you enjoy the most recently on your trips?
For me, I really enjoy. I mean, it's so cliche, just seeing new things and experiencing different cultures is a big one. I also did not travel until very recently in my life. The first ever plane trip that I took was with a company just a couple of years ago to New York. Since then, it was to Mexico and then to...
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Just because I'm curious, sometimes I don't get scared on an airplane, but I like... It blows my mind sometimes when I'm up in the air. Be like, we're up in the air, thousands of miles above, and we're in this metal tube, and we're traveling at a ridiculously fast pace, and it just blows my mind. I'm just kind of curious. It's like you were more of an adult. What was it like to fly for the first time?
There was some of that. But honestly, just knowing how Lyft works, and then also, because again, Brittany was there because it was, the company thing, made it a little bit easier. And also knowing some of the stats on how it's the safest form of travel compared to even, driving my car and stuff. Honestly, my biggest thing was, I just ignored a lot of that and enjoyed it. It was just awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to look down, especially so you guys live in the West Coast near the Denver area, and
not the West Coast.
In the West, yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, the Colorado coast.
Yeah,
give it another 50 years of climate change, and we'll be a coastal city
in the West. But flying over the West, you get to see all the mountains and the valleys. It's really cool to see everything. And flying from the East Coast, it's
corn.
Yeah. That's more like Nebraska.
Okay. Well, no, when you said flying from, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it is really cool you all have a lot more scenic views from here compared to the East Coast, or to be fair, California has a lot of really great views. So, okay, I'm sorry for interrupting. So the trip to Mexico.
I don't remember what the question was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no. What are you? Okay, so new things. Either
what you like about traveling?
Yeah. Traveling.
Yeah, you could talk about the UK or Ireland too.
Yeah.
You had the courage to eat haggis, which
haggis and black pudding.
Yeah, I make fun of constantly, even though I've never had it. So I'm not being fair to it.
It was delicious, man, and it was it's not that much different than eating a friggin' hot dog, man. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
But I really just like the new things, because again, I didn't do much traveling at all when I was younger, and that includes in the U.S. Like Brittany and I would occasionally go to Wisconsin to visit our grandparents. I have virtually no memory of it because I was young and having just terrible memory from when I was younger.
There's cheese there.
Yeah, there's cheese. That's about it.
The drive was a lot of corn.
There was a lot of corn in between here and there, yes. And outside of that, I didn't even travel much within my own state, right? I just do not get out much. And so being in a completely different environment is one of the best things, but then seeing completely different people. I do enjoy that aspect of it, even though I don't like people very much. Just seeing how people interact, how they do things, it gives me a much better appreciation for them and myself. Makes me feel all worldly, but then that's why I try stuff like haggis and black pudding. I want to try these things that are really unique to these areas. So yeah, Scotland and Ireland were great experiences for that. They're not super different than the US in terms of that. Like there's enough cultural overlap, obviously.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
English.
Fish and chips. Can't get good fish and chips in Colorado.
Yeah, but
You haven't been to GB's fish and chips yet.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
you actually, I've actually never been to Japan, but from people that I've talked to, you might feel more in your element there.
Yes, I would love to go to Japan. That's basically been a dream place of mine since I was young.
Same, yeah, both of us.
Yeah.
We always loved anime growing up, so we always wanted
That was definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
I also grew up being a real big fan of ninjas when I was like 6, but obviously,
So I talked to somebody that was in Japan a few years ago, but he was telling me that you can do a whole trip as a specific anime character.
What?
So yeah, and they'll take you on a trip and they'll give you a guided tour. You get dressed up. He did Speed Racer.
Oh.
And he was dressed up as Speed Racer. They took him out to all these locations as Speed Racer. So just a suggestion there for you.
Okay, Brittany, if you could do that, what character would you choose to be?
Ooh, good question. Probably either like Misty from Pokemon,
Okay.
or I also like Hanji from Attack on Titan.
Ah, good choice.
Yes.
Well, you asked her.
I don't want to answer. I don't know. There's no one looks like me. I can't cosplay as anyone.
I mean, you could do anything.
Okay.
Could be Bald Ash.
I could be bald.
They will give
Professor
you.
Oak, who's bald.
Actually, being bald means that I could put on a wig and have it work.
Yeah, what I was gonna, like, I've seen people like put on the hairdos for
Yeah.
because like the anime hair isn't a real thing. So
Full Yu-Gi-Oh wig.
I was gonna say I'll do Inuyasha. Yeah, perfect.
yeah, I'm not a big anime guy. I do like I actually recently rewatched Ghost in the Shell. Fantastic, mind-blowing movie.
Great.
But I think I would probably do Akira. I can't remember the protagonist's name though.
I can't.
Kaneda.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably do that if I had to choose somebody.
Would you get the bike with it? Because that's a requirement.
You had to have the bike.
Yeah.
That would be impressive if they also gave you. That would probably be out of my budget range too.
that bike scene from Akira where he kind of slides sideways away from the frame.
Iconic.
It's iconic, and it inspired that scene to occur in a bunch of different media. So, but I love Akira.
Yeah, that Ghost in the Shell. I think that influenced a lot of things.
It did, yeah.
All right, Brittany, traveling, the recent places you've been into, what have you enjoyed the most?
So I guess, most recent travel for me was the Mexico trip, aside from like road trips up to like Billings, Montana. And then I
haven't been to Montana, so it's probably cool up there.
So I've only seen Billings, so I think the cooler parts of Montana are elsewhere. Not that Billings.
Yeah, that was terrible. I would rather be anywhere else.
No offense, Billings, Montana.
No offense, Billings.
I don't know if anybody ever from Montana will listen to this, but
the drive through Wyoming's pretty boring and stuff like that. But we do have a Spokane trip coming up though. So I've only been to Seattle briefly. I have not seen Spokane. So I'm excited to do that and then drive through more of Montana and see more of that. But
good parts.
Yes, hopefully. We'll see how I do on the mountain driving. But aside from that, though, just like generally speaking, usually my favorite thing about traveling is obviously just seeing new things and experiencing new stuff. And then I also like trying the new foods or like good restaurants. But I will say I'm very picky. So I would never try like haggis or black pudding. I would be very picky, but I would love the fish and chips.
I'm going to feed it to you and just tell you it's sausage, and then you'll love it, and then I'll tell you afterwards.
No,
Yeah.
It doesn't work on me because I'll start poking at it and be like, "What is this?"
It's sausage. It's just sausage.
Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe pretty. I can under it. Like I was thinking about food, and it's this isn't true in every case, but I think of like food that doesn't seem too great to me, like a lot of fermented stuff. The Scandinavians love it. And maybe there's some sort of equation there with like climate. I don't know, because there's cold places with good food, but like Chicago has a bunch of good food. But man, there's a lot of like Scandinavian UK food that I wouldn't be thrilled about.
Scandinavian food is not quite the same as UK food, but yeah. Like in Iceland, you have that fermented shark, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Apparently one of the worst foods ever. I would still try it once, but just once, you know.
You don't even like normal seafood.
No, but I still ate the fish and chips that,
Well, anything deep fried is delicious.
I'm just saying.
We all did do an omakase, so that's a fancy. I'd never heard of omakase before we did it, but it's a thing where the sushi chef, or I don't know, I guess maybe just the chef, chooses all the dishes for you. There wasn't anything too wild. I wasn't a big fan of the jellyfish, though.
I did not like that. And I did have to tell them several things that I did not want them to put as part of it. I had all the requirements.
That's true.
Yeah, but that was a little bit of food exploration.
And exactly, as a side note, again, I'm not really a big seafood person. I did the omakase. I ate the jellyfish. I ate all the, various seafoods just for the experience of it. And all of it was good. It was great. I still enjoyed that I tried the, jellyfish just for that weird, oh, it's gooey. Oh, it's crunchy. What is happening? Because I did not listen to the server when she said that it was crunchy. I did not hear what she said until afterwards. You know that feeling you get when you're like, you hear words, you're not sure what it was. And afterwards you're like, that,
yeah. Penguins and otters.
Penguins, otters. Exactly.
All right, okay. So last questions is, we're surrounded by a bunch of Marvel, specifically, I guess, Avengers stuff. You have Groot up there. You have the raccoon, whose name I can't remember. Rocket. Yeah. Yeah. So, Brittany, this is your setup. It's Avengers, and then you also have Toad over there, which is the most tertiary character I can think of for Super Mario. And I
would be offended.
Well, it's like he's in Super Mario Kart, and what's the Super Mario Party? I never actually played Super Mario, the party ones.
Mario Party and
Mario Party. Yeah, Mario Party, Mario Kart. Sorry, Mario. I'm losing fans all over the place. But it's like Super Smash Bros, Super Mario 64. They were my games. Explain your fascination with the Avengers. Is it Marvel or is it Avengers specifically?
It's so Marvel in general, but usually more specifically Avengers is what I get into. Now, this is obviously like earlier MCU. The original 4 phases is when I was super into it. And so, yeah, I was really into the Avengers, and Captain America and Iron Man are my favorites specifically. And then, yeah, I've got a Toad corner down here. All my Pokemon stuff is upstairs, so you haven't seen that. But
I'm gonna have to, if you allow me to take pictures
I'll get some pictures.
I'm gonna splice it into this video.
Yes.
Definitely get a photo of the Pokemon cards that she made of her cats.
Oh yes, I do have custom Pokemon cards for all 3 cats. And yes, I've always been obsessed with Toad from Nintendo. I don't know why. Ever since I was a kid, he was just called Mushroom Baby to me. And then once I had big kid money, I started buying plushies and figures, and it's just spiraled into a full-blown obsession. And so now I've ordered Toad figures from eBay that come from Nintendo World in Japan. I've got an original artwork, and it's just gone over the top.
Okay, yeah, it's like just Toad. I don't see it, but
it's so cute. Like, how can you know? Especially Cat Toad. Like, yeah, Cat Toad is by far my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I got goes back like Nintendo 64. That was like the beginning. Like Mario, it's me, Mario.
Good impression.
Yeah, I do a lot.
You really
of them.
Put your heart into it.
No.
Let's go. Impression is not that good.
That. All right. Pokemon. Just because you mentioned this, I was recently talking to a friend, and my brother actually bought some Pokemon as an investment. And it's
Pokemon cards, or
yes, cards. And my friend, his is, last I talked to him, it was worth $100,000. Just his Pokemon card investment. And I was talking to my brother about it. It's like, this is wild. I can't believe it. It's like, dude, if I bought these cards and they doubled in price, and now it's like a couple $1,000s, and it's like, I do not I don't know. We all grew up in the time where Pokemon first started. I appreciate it. I don't care about it as an adult, so I'm just like, who's buying these? It has to be people like our age, and it's a very thin slice of people. But I kind of think it's like a Ponzi scheme, like the meme. And no offense to everybody I know, which is a lot of people, surprisingly, that have it as investments, but it's kind of, the meme coins are known for, okay, I'm going to buy this to sell to somebody else. Like I'm just like curious what the total end market is for people that really want to stare at unopened Pokemon packs.
That's what's crazy to me. So my roommate, my partner's cousin, he's actually into the Pokemon card investment thing too. So he buys a lot of the high valuable ones. I've looked at those at, Fan Expo and things like that. So I've always been tempted. And I do have a huge Pokemon collection, including a lot of the original decks that I built when I was a kid. I don't think anything is like super crazy rare or valuable, but like for me, I don't care about the value. I just like the nostalgia of it. And so I feel like a card is only worth as much as someone's going to actually pay for it. So kind of think it'll like break and go downhill here soon. Like once our generation is a little older and over it, although at this point, I don't know when I'll ever be over Pokemon. It's already been 25-year anniversary recently, and I'm still as obsessed with it, if not more than when I was a kid. So,
interesting thing to note. I mean, Pokemon is still the biggest franchise. Like, it has made more money than anything else in terms of franchise. It's made more than Star Wars. It's made more than Marvel. And so it has staying power. And, while it's true that these things are worth what people will pay for, there's enough people who also think that the value will keep going up to keep that part of the market going. Now, there's also a lot of people who just want to, get into the investment side of it, but also want to do it in a way that is slightly interesting. It's the same with people who have a huge amount of value in, Magic the Gathering cards. Usually they're still playing Magic the Gathering and stuff. But it happens so often. I would think that someone near me might also remember the Beanie Baby craze when there was a whole lot of, oh my God, in 15 years, this Beanie Baby is going to be worth thousands of dollars. So you got to get the protectors for the, tags. And she had a lot of them. It's something that is collectible that also people, say will increase in value, which means that more people buy it. So the companies are really the ones who are pushing for these sorts of things. And now a lot of the card companies are also very specifically going for that. Like with Magic the Gathering, they're having numbered cards. And there was even a card where they just made one ring. And, it's definitely an artificial scarcity at that point. But because it's still scarcity, it works.
Yeah, when it comes to that, I think a company, it's kind of on the people that want to buy it. Like, 5 out of 5. If I don't know how you can blame the company for that. If people want to buy it, they're going to buy it.
It's not necessarily blaming the company because the company's job is to make money. I'm just saying that it is still like, it's also, I mean, we could get into the gambling aspect of it and stuff.
I was thinking, I guess I had, because I saw you have some Funkos too, which I guess I need to take a picture of now. Do you know Meat Canyon?
Yes, I know Meat Canyon.
So I like Meat Canyon was going on a tirade about Funko. So for some reason that was going in my brain just now. And he's like, they make limited, like, don't get me, I don't have any Funko, but so they're these small figurines that all kind of look similar. But they make
the same base.
Yeah, they vary it a little bit, but he was just going on a tirade about it, and I, for some reason, that was in my brain.
If you like Meat Canyon's video on Funko, you should also watch Meat Canyon's video on Labubu.
Oh yeah, so it's funny when I was in New York and the place I got you hot sauce for some reason and it's from China, right?
Labubu?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they it's these like evil rabbit looking things, and I don't.
They're evil doll thing. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so
not evil. They're just supposed to be ugly.
Okay, they're ugly evil. I got like an evil vibe from it more than ugly, but I guess. I don't know if the kids enjoy it, but I mean, I also don't have TikTok, so I don't understand that either.
The kids enjoy it, and it started with like a craze of, I think, a K-pop star, and
okay,
it became a big thing after that.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's like this, you know, you open, you don't know what you're going to get. And then, you know, you have to keep opening to find the one you want, or you can spend a bunch more money to specifically buy the one you want. Then that's when you start trading and, you know, but that's the same sort of thing that happens with cards. Now, cards, you can still play.
Yeah.
Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff.
It's fun. Like, I went through all the phases, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Never played it.
What about Digimon?
Yes, Digimon too.
Okay.
Yeah, like the TV show. I enjoyed that too. Digimon, Digital Monsters. I can't remember the rest of it, but
Digimon are the champions.
Okay, that's what it is. I just kind of know the beat from there, but yeah, Digimon were pretty good, but they faded very quickly. I haven't heard of anything about them. Yeah,
the show started again.
As a yeah, somebody brought the rights. Like, yeah, we could like create characters now. Just a bunch of Digimon Funkos.
It happened recently, though. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna force you to do it. You brought up the hot sauce. Do you you want to try it?
I would love to try the hot sauce.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We could just grab a spoon or something.
All right. Well, we can cut. And this has officially turned into a rip-off of Hot Ones. Again, this is of your own free will. I haven't asked for this, but I'm also...
You
do
cannot
not
have the
want
hot
any.
sauce.
Okay.
George, come here.
Who's a good boy?
So this is Benito's Hot Sauce Old Koi Dog Ghost Chili Blend. All right. Let's try this. It's hot. It's not super hot yet.
Okay.
It might be building. Building a little bit. I'm going to have some more.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes mild can get me, so...
Same.
Another little spoonful. I'll hold it in my mouth longer this time.
Jeez. I'm actually more... I know you're into heat. I was hoping that this would be hot enough for you, but...
I would argue that it is hot enough for me for like when I want to enjoy food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not when you want to destroy your mouth.
Yeah. That second one, I kept it on my tongue for longer. Now it's hurting a little bit.
Okay.
Now it's hurting a little bit. It feels good though. I can definitely. That's good flavor too.
Okay. I'm glad you enjoy it. That's all that matters.
Would you like to try it?
No.
I will say, if mild is hot for you sometimes, that would hurt a lot.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll end it like this. Thank you both for coming on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You heard about a man, the lift controller, the lever king, I told you. Hop in and let the journey begin. Straight and shiny face, let you someone for outer space. So full of grace, I just wanna get it up and down. We're moving on around, we're going up and down. We're moving on around. I wanna show you my world, where the beat goes up and down. Let me open the door. Elevator operator. Like him, I really wanna be like him. I wanna be with him. Forget about that. Heads up in the sky, and we keep getting high. Imagine down in this level that you cannot deny. We're glowing light.